Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly rise for the national anthems of the United States of America and the Republic of Armenia, and remain standing for the invocation to be delivered by the Very Reverend Muran Aznikyan of the Western Prelacy of the Armenian Apostolic Church of America.
Օրհնյալ դեր մեր Հիսուս Քրիստոս ամեն Հայր մեր որ հեգինս ես Սուրբ Եղիցյանուն քո Եկեսե արքայություն քո Եղիցին գամ քո որբես հեգինս էր հեգրի Ըս հաց մեր հանաբազորդ դուր մեզ այսօր Եվ թող մեզ ըսբարդիս մեր որբես եւ մեկ թողունք մերոս բարդաբանած Եվ մի դանիր ըս մեզի փորձություն Այլ փրկյա ըս մեզի չար են, զիքո երկայություն, եզորություն, և պարկ հավիդյանս հայդենից ամեն, նստինք, հիմի էլ լրենք, և մեր թշնամին գսպարնա, մեզ աշխարի կարդեսեն պնաչնչել, սակայն մենք վերագանքնելու և վերադերանալու ենք մեր երկրին և արդար բանջներուն, ասքերու և ժողովուրդներու ինքնությունն ու քոյությունը գերաշխավորվի իրենց հայրենիքով, հայրենի հողի վրա ապրելու և ստեղծագործելու արդար իրավունքի իրողությամբ, արդարև հայրենիքի ազատության և ամբողջականության պահպանման համար մղվող պայքարը սուրբ է ու նվիրական։ Մեր ժողովուրդը հանուն իր հայրենիքի և իրավունքներու ցեղբերման համար Թարեր պայքարած է, մեր կյանքը եղած է քողքոթա ու խաչի ճանապարհ եւ միաժամանակ ստեղծագործ կամք, պայքար, վերածնունդ ու հարություն։ Անցյալ դարվան 44 օրյա պատերազմը թշվախտաբար ավարտեցավ նոյեմբեր 9-ի ամոթալի բարդությամբ։ Արցախի շուրջ 12,000 քառակուսի կիլոմետր տարածքին 10,000 հանձնվեցավ դրվեցավ Ադրբեջանին։ 114 քյուղեր, ավաններ, թանկարան, թբրոց, հիվանդանոց ու այլ գառույցներ, շուրջ 120,000 մշակութային գոտողներ, վանքեր, եկեղեցիներ, խաչքարեր եւ այլն, շուրջ 5,000 նահատակված հերոսներ, շուրջ 10,000 վիրավոր հաշմանդամներ, անթիվ գորածներ եւ անհետ գործվածներ ու քերիներ. It was 1 year ago, on November 9, 2020, the Artsakh war ended after 44 days of brutal conflict initiated by an unprovoked surprise attack on our homeland. Even a year ago and later, the terrible realities of the war, the loss of land, the displacement of our countrymen, the ongoing tragedy of Armenian POWs and MIAs, and worst of all, the loss of countless precious lives among our courageous soldiers and civilians are deeply painful. Our people are living difficult days. Last year, in the course of 44 days, we lost heroic soldiers. Sacred shrines that have been cherished by Armenian pilgrims for more than 1,000 years are no longer in Armenian land hands. Holy places and churches where our prayers have mingled with our blood. We did not lose, however, the faith of our people and the will to rebuild. The war has not ended. Thus, it is essential to be united, prudent and realistic, to be able to overcome the current crisis-ridden and complex period. Since November 14, Azerbaijani military carrying out unlawful actions, including terroristic acts against Armenia, and November 16 large-scale attacks near some villages in Syunik. On November 15, the Azerbaijani government unleashed a volley of unprovoked violence against Armenia. Azerbaijani's armed forces infiltrated this sovereign country and territory of the Republic of Armenia. The Armenian parliament announced Tuesday, 16th of November, that 15 of its troops had died in the fighting. Shortly after, the country asked Russia for help defending its territorial integrity. Armenian officials said they had also lost 2 combat positions and blamed Azerbaijan for the latest violence. The post-war discourse of the Azerbaijani government does not seek dialogue. On the contrary, it pushes the Armenian government to accept the victor's position and deny the existence of Nagorno-Karabakh as an actor. Այսօր Հայաստանի ու Արցախի կյանքը փոթորկած ու խռոված է։ Պետական գալույցները անթանալուծված, կառավարությունը իր ուղղությունը գործընծուցած, անորոշության է մատնված, սղաճն ու տնտեսական արդյունաբերությունը սրանգության եզրին են հասած, սակայն մենք վերականգնելու եւ վերադառնալու ենք սփազան մեր լեռներուն, սարերուն, հողին ու ջուրին, այգիներուն ու մկրստաններուն, թարեր շարունակ, բացմության խավարին ու չարին թեմ ամուր բահեցինք մեր հավատքը, գենթանի ու արյան նահատակությամբ վերադառնալու եւ վերակառուցելու ենք լույսի եւ հայ թբրության թաղտնոցները, թբոսներն ու մեր բանկերը, աղոտքի խորաններն եկեղեցիները, հաղթելու ենք խավարին, լույսի, արդարության եւ ճշմարտության զենքերով, ուսման եւ գիտության զենքերով, պայքարելու ենք հանուն մեր արթա իրանքներու ցերկերման, ազատ ու անկախ կյանքի քոյության, հանուն բաղվան հայ սերունդներու հայորեն ապրելու եւ ստեղծագործելու, անհույս չլանք, քանզի մեր հետ երկինքեն գբայքարին անցյալի ու ներկայի, հավատքի ու հայրենիքի ազատության, արժանապատվության համար իրենց Կյանքն է վերապերած նադակ անմահ բոլոր թալերու հերոսները, բոլորս անխդիր համարադու ենք ժողովրդին եւ պատասխանատու բացության թիմած հայությունը եւ հայրենիքը ամեն բան է վեր մեր հողերը եւ մեր սրբությունները ամեն բան է վեր The Armenian nation pursues a just cause, defending its ancestral lands of thousands of years. The massacre of innocent people on a daily basis leave no room for double standards, hypocrisy, political correctness, or weightless statements. While Armenia and Artsakh relentlessly work toward peace and dialogue, Azerbaijan rolls the drums of war. As always, the Armenian American community stands united in its unequivocal support of the people and governments of Armenia and Artsakh. The Armenian National Committee of America Western Region, which is the largest and most influential non-partisan Armenian American grassroots advocacy organization, works in coordination with a network of offices, chapters, and supporters throughout the Western United States, advances the concerns of the Armenian American community on a broad range of issues in pursuit of the Armenian cause. Today, we salute the brave soldiers of the Armenian armed forces, as well as the Defense Army of Artsakh, who continue to preserve the territorial integrity and safety of their respective states and civilian populations. We pray to our merciful Lord, Jesus Christ, for the repose of every lost soul among our countrymen, and for the consolation of their grieving families. O Lord our God, we appeal to your mercy for the protection of the Armenian nation as we face the attacks and aggression of our enemy. Lord, listen to our supplications and keep unshaken the Republic of Armenia and Artsakh. Guard our nation and our brave soldiers under the shadow of your holy cross, and strengthen us all to protect our homeland in any way we can. Hold out your generous, merciful hand and bless our entire people, so that the spirit of courage, unity, care, love for one another, understanding, and divine worship would rest upon us. Bless bright souls of those who have already lost their lives in this war, and save the lives of those who are bravely protecting our borders and the lives of the innocent civilians who are currently under attack. Let us all, as children of Haik and adopted children of the Armenian Church, put on the armor of faith in Christ, take up the sword of the Spirit, and crown our heads with the helmet of hope and courage, asking God to bestow on us the grace of His mercy and help us to end this war and to stop the enemy. Amen. Այսօր մինչ Հայաստան եւ Արցախ չանաչիր կհետաբնթեն խաղաղություն եւ եղբայրություն, Ադրբեջանը կքաշելերե բարերազմը։ Մենք ողջուն ենք քաշարի մեր զինվորներու հայոց փանագի եւ Արցախի պաշտպանության փանագի հերոսական գեցվածքը, ինչպես նաեւ խաղաղաբահ ռուսական փանագի միավորներու զոհաբերությունները, որոնք կբայքարին պաշտպանել եւ ապահովել տարածաշրջանի իրավիճակը եւ բնակչության ապահովությունը։ Հայոց պատմության անգնաթարցային ոչռոս այս օրերուն վերականգնելու եւ Աստուծո օգնությամբ համասկային չանքերով եւ անգոդրում բայկալի ոգիով ոտքի գտնելու եւ հաղթելու ենք, քանզի շինարար, աշխատասեր, նախացերնող եւ հնարամիտ հայ ժողովուրդը հարութենական ժողովուրդ է ու խաղաղասեր, բայց երբ թշնամին նախահարցակ ունեն կապար ներխուժելով հարցակի, հայը կստիպվի մեկ սեկին խաչ, մյուս սեկին զենք բռնած քոյութենական բայկալ դանել, պաշտպանելու, անել զբաղելու աստային ամեն սրբություն, հարկ, քաչարի, հայանանվեր, զաբակներ ծնած հայ մայրերուն, հարկ, բարթանանց, Սարդարաբադ եւ անկախ հայրենիք գերդած անմահ ներկայացումներուն ու հայոց անհաղ բանակին ոտքի ելնենք for the grace. God is great, God is merciful. From his hands we receive all good. We pray and ask your blessings. Make this food useful for our physical and spiritual nourishment. And remember all the needy, for you are Lord and Creator of all, who provides all our needs. To you is befitting glory, dominion, and honor, now always and forever and ever. Amen. Hızor եւ փառավորել Աստված, փառիկներու եւ օրհնությանց բարգեւիչնես, այս պահուն գաղութենք եւ գխնդրենք բոլորնես մեր սեղանի երագուրը, քոացնելու մեր ֆիզիկական եւ հոգեվոր գարիքները, հիշանայել բոլոր գարիքավորներն ու բադարմը հացի գարոդյալները, թուն բոլորին դերն ու արարիչնես, եւ գհայթայթես մեր բոլորին անհրաժեշտ գարիքները, քեզի գվայելեն փառքը, իշխանությունը բադիվը այժմ իմիշահավդյանս հավդենից ամեն
Dear guests, please welcome ANCA Western Region Board Member Lina Davidian to deliver her welcoming remarks.
Thank you. Archbishop Barkev Mardirosyan, former primate of the Diocese of Artsakh, and today representing Archbishop Hovnan Donoyan, primate of the Western Diocese. Very Reverend Muron Aznikian, representing Bishop Torgom Donoyan, prelate of Western Prelacy. Reverend Henrik Shanazarian, interim minister of the Armenian Evangelical Union of North America. Friends, supporters, thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Pariye Gazek. We're honored today that we have a list of dignitaries with us. I would like to ask you to please allow me to introduce them and hold your applause until we finish the list. We have with us Honorable Anthony Portantino, California State Senator for the 25th District, representing the largest Armenian constituency in any district, a dear friend of our community, and we're proud to announce that he's just returned from his 4th trip to Armenia just a few days ago. Welcome back, Senator, and we're very honored that you continue to support us and our activities. His Excellency Armen Barbutian, Consul General of the Republic of Armenia in Los Angeles, and Mrs. Iveta Barbutian, Dr. Armine Hagopian, President of the Glendale Community College Board, Mr. Shant Sahakyan, President of the Glendale Unified School District and Board of Education, Dr. Rafael De La Rosa, Assistant Vice President, Government and Community Relations of California State University, Northridge. And we're very proud to announce that Cal State Northridge, along with the Armenian Studies, will be hosting Dr. Tatoyan on Tuesday. It's an open forum, and everyone is welcome. We have with us also Dr. Vivian Ekchin, Superintendent of the Glendale Unified School District, members of the Central Committee of ARF Western USA, Dr. Avedik Izmirlian, member of the Central Executive Council, Chairman of the Armenian Cultural Foundation, my apologies, members of the ARS Western USA Regional Executive, Dr. Vahe Yakupian, member of the Central Executive Council of the Holy See of Cilicia, Dr. Meher Derohanesyan and Jack Hajinian, members of the Western Prelacy Executive Council, Mr. Sarkis Urfalyan, President of the Board of Regents of the Western Prelacy Armenian Schools, Mr. Charles Gallian, Chairman of the USC Armenian Studies Institute Leadership Council, Mr. Bej Garabedian, Executive Chairman of the Armenian American Museum, Dr. Ada Khachadurian, Editor of Asparez News, Dr. Eric Israelian, a benefactor, philanthropist, film producer, and founder of the Promise Institutes at UCLA, and his wife, Mrs. Melina Israelian, welcome. Ms. Araxia Karapetian, everyone knows, I think, Araxia, KTTV Fox 11 morning anchor, and the 2019 recipient of the ANCA Western Region Excellence in Media Award. Ms. Kate McIntosh, Executive Director of the Promise Institute for Human Rights at UCLA School of Law, and of course, today's honoree, human rights defender, Ombudsman of the Republic of Armenia, Dr. Arman Tatoyan, and his wife, Mrs. Gayane Tatoyan. Welcome, everybody. It was a long list, and I do apologize. We're very honored to have everyone, and if I've missed anyone, my apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past 18 months, I don't need to tell anyone, has been very challenging time for us in this country and also for Armenians, starting with the pandemic, the war in Armenia, the atrocities and the human rights violations that go on to date in our homeland, affecting our people, and the political situation in this country, for us at the ANCA has created a very challenging time. However, here at the ANCA, we are determined. We are unified in our commitment, and we truly believe that with proper and realistic strategies, effective leadership, and organization activism, we can make a difference. We can help our cause and we can help our people. But we can never do this without all of you, without our benefactors, without our volunteers, without our grassroots activists. Collectively, we believe that we can make this happen and we can make a difference. So please, we look forward to your continued support as you have in the past. And as we always say here at ANCA, we can do it together because we're all ANCA. Thank you so much. I also want to, at this time, thank our board and our volunteer staff who've worked very hard to put this event together. I would also like to thank some of our volunteers who never refuse us. I'd like to thank Suren Seropian, Marie Philippian, Arsho Beilerian, and Silva Keshishian for their help. And last but not least, we would like to wish our Vice Chair, Rafi Kasabian, a happy birthday, and we're happy to celebrate it with you here today. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screens for a video presentation of the important work of the ANCA Western Region.
In times of triumph and in times of crisis, the work of the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region never stops, especially as seen over the past 2 years. On September 27, 2020, Azerbaijan and Turkey invaded the Republic of Artsakh, waging a vicious 44-day war, which tragically resulted in significant loss of life and land, displacement, destruction of our cultural heritage, unlawful detention of POWs, and incursions within our borders. The ANCA Western Region went into high alert by engaging the national media, mobilizing the community, meeting daily with elected officials and policymakers, and successfully demanding that U.S. companies terminate lucrative contracts with the Turkish government. In this volatile post-war period, the ANCA's mission is to stop U.S. military aid to Turkey and Azerbaijan, end investment of public funds in Turkish government bonds, and promote U.S. engagement for the security of Armenia and Artsakh fervently continues. The U.S. officially recognized the Armenian genocide with congressional passage in both houses in 2019 and a presidential proclamation in 2021. But amidst this hard-fought victory, the 2020 war against Armenia and Artsakh painfully proved that the genocidal intent of both Turkey and Azerbaijan against the Armenian nation continues unabated, demonstrating that our work does not end with U.S. recognition. The ANCA Western Region continues to keep the issue alive, successfully fighting for Armenian genocide education in public schools in California, Colorado, and Nevada, and seeking an end to American complicity in Turkey's ongoing well-funded genocide denial campaign. Our community's civic engagement is vital to keeping our cause on the U.S. radar. ANCA's recent initiatives, ranging from high votes to high count to full participation in the redistricting process, all ensure that our collective voice is empowered and heard. During the worst days of the COVID pandemic, the ANCA-WR mobilized bilingual communities and worked with local authorities to disseminate critical public information through social media and Armenian TV interviews. As part of the COVID-19 Armenian Community Task Force, many of our local chapters organized food banks and assistance to Armenian families. As part of the 2020 commemoration of the Armenian genocide, the ANCA-WR also joined a coalition of community organizations to express gratitude to the American public for its relief efforts to help survivors of the Armenian genocide, raising enough funds for Feeding America to provide meals to over 5 million Americans in need. Our future lies with our youth, and the ANCA-WR's internship programs and professional network train youth activists to become tomorrow's leaders, while our district ambassador and rapid responder initiatives invite Armenian Americans to empower our community by directly engaging with their elected officials. Now more than ever, the ANCA Western Region remains committed to pursue every aspect of the Armenian cause. But it is only through our generous supporters and dedicated grassroots volunteers that we can advance our priorities and utilize our community's influence as Armenian Americans. Join our movement today.
Dear guests, please welcome the chair of the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region, Nora Hovsepian, to deliver the organizational message.
Distinguished guests, Reverend clergy, dear friends. On behalf of the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region Board, I want to thank you for joining us and supporting this event, the first event that we've had in 2 years. It's so gratifying to see you all here in this beautiful setting. 2020 was a very tough year for all of us, from the COVID pandemic to the devastating war in Artsakh. And 2021 has brought new challenges which we never would have imagined having to face, as the consequences of the war have led to an existential threat not only against Artsakh, but even against Armenia itself. In the midst of this crisis, one thing has become crystal clear. The very same pan-Turkic ideology which was the driving force for the Armenian genocide over a century ago, continues today with the genocidal intent of Turkey and Azerbaijan on full display for all the world to see. And there can be no doubt that they will continue until they either achieve their goal or they are stopped. What remains is the question of how we are going to fight against this onslaught so that our Armenian nation, with its rich and storied history, can survive and thrive. On the heels of a victory we fought decades to achieve, with both houses of Congress formally recognizing the Armenian genocide, the dark days of the COVID pandemic set upon us, before we even had a chance to celebrate. At that time, we had no idea what was coming just 6 months later. As you've undoubtedly seen in the media and in the video we just showed, our projects continued despite the pandemic. And while we would normally take this opportunity to report on our activities, I want to avoid redundancy and focus on the crisis currently facing us. First, though, allow me to express thanks to each of you. Although we had to cancel our much anticipated annual gala banquet 2 years in a row due to COVID restrictions, we decided to have this event in a new outdoor setting, unsure of how it would go. But we were pleasantly surprised to see how quickly it sold out. And we were even more gratified by the fact that this smaller event, believe it or not, has raised nearly the same amount for our organization in donations as our gala banquets typically raise with over 1,000 people present. And that, dear friends, is thanks to each of you and your unwavering commitment to our cause during both good times and hard times. Over the past 2 years, we lost so many strong ANCA supporters and really pillars of our community. Manas Bujikyan, Khajak Sarkisyan, Satik Derohanesyan, Lisa Gabudyan, Khajak Dikidjan, Vasken Madenlian, and of course, former State Assembly member Khacho Achadjian. We will miss them all, we do miss them all, and we cherish their memories as we try to emulate their lifelong service to the Armenian cause. We are exceedingly grateful to our event sponsors and stalwart supporters, Varant and Huri Melkonian, who unfortunately were unable to be present today due to a prior family commitment. And also to each of our generous donors, ranging from the Sepetians to the Karapetians, from the Mackenzies to the Manjikians, the Akians, the Deroanesians, Eshkians, Fermanians, Galians, Urfalians, Petrosians, Saryans, and Sinanians, and every single donor who has shown confidence and trust in our work year after year. I also want to thank Dr. Eric Israelian, who is here with us today and has stood behind us every step of the way, and congratulate him, I would be remiss not to do so, for recently receiving an award from Pope Francis, who honored him, very deservedly, for his philanthropic work in advancing awareness about the Armenian genocide. We're so proud of you. Thank you, Eric. Now, allow me to set the stage for how we got here. Last year, after we had to cancel our gala banquet due to COVID restrictions, our board pulled out all the stops to create a unique visual experience for our supporters to feel as though they were actually present at the banquet while watching from home. On Saturday night, September 26, 2020, as we were all putting our finishing touches on our speeches and awards presentations to be taped in studio the next morning, the devastating news came that Artsakh was under attack by Azerbaijan. Faced with this new crisis, our board and staff immediately canceled the taping and sprung into action. Over the ensuing 44 days, we all witnessed with horror the onslaught that was being inflicted upon our homeland, not only by Azerbaijan, but also by Turkey, with its drones and its mercenaries, as we faced a modern era genocidal campaign against our people. We at the ANCA Western Region moved into red alert, high gear, working 24/7, engaging daily, both publicly as well as behind the scenes, with policymakers and elected officials, coalition partners, national, international, and local media, foreign diplomats, and the general public. We hired PR firms and other professionals to help us navigate these unprecedented turbulent times and quickly open doors to think tanks and people of influence. We launched campaigns to identify American lobbying and defense manufacturing firms hired by the Turkish and Azeri governments, and using our influence, we pressured them to terminate those contracts. We continued to find ways to divest public funds from Turkey, because the thought of our tax dollars going to fund Turkey's attacks against our soldiers and citizens was just too much to bear. We disseminated and highlighted reports from the ground by our distinguished honoree and champion, Dr. Arman Tatoyan, who we are so proud and grateful to have with us here, and whose research and real-time investigations continue to document and reveal unspeakable war crimes and human rights violations against our people. We collaborated with community partners to mobilize our people for a mass protest from the Azeri consulate to the Turkish consulate, where 150,000 of us marched to support our compatriots in the homeland and call attention to the aggression by our enemies. We launched the D2P, Duty to Prevent initiative, to counter the rising wave of anti-Armenian and Armenophobic hate crimes by building anti-hate coalitions with Jewish, Hindu, Asian American, Serbian, Assyrian, and Hellenic and other ethnic and racial groups. And to find further areas of common ground and create opportunities for collaboration and communication, we recently launched AJAC, the Armenian Jewish Advisory Council, as an extension of our successful work with Jewish community organizations on genocide and Holocaust education and ethnic studies. Indeed, these are truly dark days in the 4,000-year history of the Armenian people. But history has shown that the light will shine again so long as we remain vigilant, engaged, and proactive. It is this light, perhaps distant, but still there, that keeps us here fighting for our cause, because we don't have the luxury of just giving up, and because our people need us now more than ever. The current geopolitical reality has Armenia and Artsakh at the mercy of regional actors, each pursuing agendas anchored in their own interest, very few of which coincide with our own. This is a crucial time when homeland and diaspora must collectively harness their respective resources and expertise toward the protection, preservation, and advancement of our national rights. This is the time for all hands on deck, coming together to formulate and implement a pan-national agenda. This is not a time to be divisive, dismissive, or self-destructive. As Armenians in the diaspora, and more specifically as Armenian Americans, it is up to us to identify areas where we have the power and influence to effectuate U.S. policy changes to favor our rights and interests over those of our enemies. On a mass scale, this is what we can do, and this is what we must do. This is what the ANCA strives to do every single day. So how do we accomplish this? Well, we support and elect allies in the public sector who have the ability, understanding, and commitment to promote our pro-Armenian legislative and policy priorities and to hold Turkey and Azerbaijan accountable. By drawing attention to war crimes, human rights violations, illegal detention of our POWs, cultural genocide, border incursions, and violent rhetoric by Azeri and Turkish leaders and military, we increase pressure on them rather than allow them to act with impunity. And as the most important focal point, we have to highlight the same pan-Turkic aspirations that led first to the Armenian genocide a century ago and now continue to threaten our sovereignty and borders with the same genocidal intent. Just as we fought for decades for official recognition by the United States of the Armenian genocide, culminating in President Biden's unequivocal proclamation this year, we will continue to fight for increased U.S. aid to Armenia and Artsakh, increased U.S. engagement with the OSCE Minsk Group peace process, sanctions against Turkey, and an end to waivers of Section 907 so we can stop all U.S. military aid to Azerbaijan. As American citizens, we must exercise our right to demand that our tax dollars stop funding these genocidal autocratic regimes. Yes, these are tall orders. And yes, many in our community lament that we are weak because Armenia seemingly has nothing to offer the United States. But in the face of these challenges, we must continue to focus on 4 undeniable facts. 1, Armenia is the only democracy in the region, and thus it is in the U.S. interest to support it. 2, Armenia is the only country in the region with a vocal and organized diaspora that has significant potential to exert pressure in favor of Armenia and Artsakh. 3, for its own security and survival, Armenia must be given viable options so that it is not monopolized by any single regional power which takes advantage of its intense vulnerability. And 4, and very importantly, while Armenia may appear to be alone and abandoned by its supposed allies, there remains one strong ally whose commitment and loyalty are unwavering and whose vast potential remains largely untapped. And that ally is the Armenian diaspora. It is precisely for these reasons that we have succeeded in keeping the Armenian cause alive on the U.S. foreign policy agenda. We should all rest assured and take pride in the fact that if it weren't for the civic engagement of the Armenian American community, your continued support, and the work of the ANCA nationwide from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., and everywhere in between, U.S. policymakers would hear only from the well-funded Turkish and Azeri lobbies, and they would have no reason or understanding to support Armenia and Artsakh. And let me just briefly address the elephant in the room, in case anyone is wondering. No matter who is governing Armenia or Artsakh, no matter who has governed the independent Armenian republics for the past 30 years, our purpose has always been to protect and promote Armenia, Artsakh, and the rights of the Armenian people. We must stay laser focused on this mission because regimes have come and gone and will continue to do so. But our commitment as Armenian Americans and as the ANCA is and must remain unequivocally to the Armenian nation. That is what we've always done, and that is what we must continue to do now. Of course, we all have our own opinions about internal politics in Armenia, and we realize and respect the fact that other political actors have different priorities. But we must focus on the fact that it is outside the ANCA's charter to take political positions on such matters. During these devastating post-war times, when policy decisions in Armenia have sharply divided our people, we must continue to advocate for Armenia as a nation state on the world stage and steer clear of allowing our individual opinions to distract us from this mission. Believe me, this is extremely challenging and difficult, but it is the best and most effective way to reach our goals, and we must continue to do that. We are living through increasingly turbulent and seemingly hopeless times, but we must realize that we are not helpless, and this is no time for despair or complacency. We've all got a lot of work to do, every single one of us. We need to amplify our voices, knock on political doors, and demand support for our cause. We need to engage the media to cover what's happening, spread the word everywhere, respond to ANCA action alerts, seek and create viable alternative solutions to what's happening, pool our resources, educate the public sector so that they're not fooled into believing the false narrative being peddled by our enemies and their paid lobbyists, and do everything within our power to come to Armenia's rescue. We are all traumatized now with the war and its ongoing horrible consequences. Our national pride is understandably wounded, and many of us feel paralyzed. But we must rise from these ashes, just as our grandparents rose from the ashes of genocide. And we must continue our fight until victory is achieved, no matter how long it might take. For it is during the darkest of days that we must focus to see the light. So as we continue to forge our path ahead, we look forward to seeing you all in the trenches, where the work of this mission has always gotten done, and where I assure you it will get done, one step at a time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screens for a video presentation showcasing the important work of today's distinguished honoree, Dr. Arman Tatoyan.
Երդվում եմ, որ լիազորություններս կկատարեմ անաչառ, առավելագույն բարեխիղճությամբ եւ ջանասիրությամբ։ Երբ ես ընտրվեցի մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի պաշտոնում, կար շատ հեշտ ճանապարհ, օրինակ պոպուլիստական աշխատանքով զբաղվել։ Ես իմ առաջ խնդիր դրեցի, ճիշտ է դա բարդ ճանապարհներ, բայց խնդիր դրեցի մասնագիտական պրոֆեսիոնալ ճանապարհով կայացնել։ 2016 թվականի փետրվարից այս պաշտոնը ստանձնելու առաջին օրերից սկսած այնպես է ստացվել, որ ողջ աշխատանքը գրեթե անցել է ճգնաժամային ու բարդ իրավիճակներում։ Նախ ընտրվելուց գրեթե անմիջապես հետո սկսվեց ապրիլյան պատերազմը։ Դրան նախ հաջորդեցին արդեն մայիսյան դարձած զինված հարձակումները Ադրբեջանի կողմից։ Այս ամենին ամիսներ անց հաջորդեց ՊՊՑ գնդի գրավումը զինված խմբի կողմից։ Դրանից հետո տեղի ունեցան զանգվածային ցույցեր, տեղի ունենում ձերբակալություններ զանգվածային, բերման ենթարկելու դեպքեր, կարող եմ նշել հուլիսի 29-ին Սարիթաղում տեղի ունեցած իրադարձությունները, բռնությունները մարդկանց նկատմամբ։ Սրանից հետո տեղի ունեցան 2018 թվականի ապրիլ-մայիս ամիսների իրադարձությունները։ Դարձյալ ողջ աշխատանքը ուղեկցվում էր բարդություններով, տեղի ունենում զանգվածային ցույցեր, բողոքների ակցիաներ, բերման էին ենթարկվում մարդիկ, ընդ որում զանգվածային էին դեպքերը։ Աշխատանքը տարվում էր թե գիշեր, թե ցերեկ ժամանակ։ Այս ողջ ընթացքում մեր աշխատանքը տարվել է բացարձակ ամենաբարձր հնարավոր հրապարակային պայմաններում։ Իրականացվել են գնահատականներ հրապարակային, քննադատություններ, առաջարկներ։ Աշխատանքի բարդ պայմաններում մշտապես մեծ է եղել Հայաստանի մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի աշխատակազմի դեմ։ Նվիրված իրենց գործին եւ պրոֆեսիոնալ մարդիկ, որոնք կարողացել են մշտապես բարդ պայմաններում ապահովել աշխատանքի դրական արդյունքներ։
Եթե այս երկրում կա մի քանի բարդ աշխատանք, դրանցից հաստատ մեկը մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանինն է։
2020 թվականի հուլիսին տեղի ունեցան ադրբեջանական զինված հարձակումները Հայաստանի Հանրապետության Տավուշի մարզի նկատմամբ։ Գնդակոծվում են քաղաքացիական բնակավայրը, դարձյալ անհրաժեշտ էին փաստահավաք բազմաթիվ աշխատանքներ, ճշգրիտ վերլուծություններ, որպեսզի միջազգային կառույցներին կարողանային ցույց տալ ադրբեջանական խախտումներ, պատերազմական հանցագործությունները։ Դուք որտեղ եք, այդ պահին տանը նստած եք։
Այն եկել եմ ստեղից վեքտում բաղնիկ ունենք այդտեղ։ Այդ բաղնիքը նստել, մնացել նստած։
Since September 27, military forces of Azerbaijan carry out targeted intensive strikes and shellings towards civilian settlements and peaceful population of Armenia and Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh. 2020 թվականի սեպտեմբերին Ադրբեջանը սանձազերծեց պատերազմ Արցախում։ Տեղի ունենում հարցազինված զանգվածային հարձակումներ, թիրախիտակ էին պահվում քաղաքացիական բնակավայրերը։ Հարձակումներն ուղեկցվում էին նաև խոշտանգումներով, անմարդկային դաժան վերաբերմունքով, խախտումներն այն աստիճան զանգվածային էին, որ ողջ ռեսուրսների լարումով էր անհրաժեշտ աշխատել, զուգահեռ իրականացնելով հրապարակային աշխատանք, զուգահեռ աշխատելով միջազգային կառույցների հետ, անհրաժեշտ էր փաստագրել բոլոր աշխատանքները, որպեսզի կարողանային հիմքեր ապահովել ադրբեջանական խախտումները ճշգրիտ ցույց տալու համար, որովհետև զուգահեռ նաև նախաձեռնված էր զանգվածային ապատեղեկատվություն Ադրբեջանի կողմից իրականում տեղի ունեցողի վերաբերյալ։ 2020 թվականի նոյեմբերից հետո, երբ դադարեցին զինված հարձակումները, սկիզբ առան նոր խախտումներ, արդեն որը դրանք վերաբերվում էին Հայաստանի Հանրապետության սահմանային բնակավայրերին, տեղի ունենում մարդկանց իրավունքների զանգվածային խախտումներ։ Մենք որոշում կայացրեցինք իրականացնել այցեր եւ տեղում ուսումնասիրել բոլոր դեպքերը։ Խախտումներն այն աստիճան շատ էին, որ բաժանվել էին խմբերի եւ այցերն իրականացվում էին, աշխատանքները տարվում էին զուգահեռ։ Ադրբեջանական խախտումներն այն աստիճան զանգվածային էին, որ բազմաթիվ մարդիկ զրկվել են պարզապես իրենց պատկանող տներից, հողատարածքներից, հնարավորություն չունեն, խաթարվել է մարդկանց խաղաղ ու բնականon կյանքը։ Մենք արձանագրել ենք դեպքեր, երբ մարդը զրկվել է իր սեփական տնից, պարզապես այն պատճառով, որ ադրբեջանական զինված ուժերը անօրինական ներկայ են իր տարածքում։ Այս աշխատանքները բարդ էին նրանով, որ աշխարհում չկար որևէ մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի նման հաստատություն, որ կունենար այսպիսի փորձ, նման պատերազմական պայմաններում աշխատելու համար։ Բայց իհարկե ժամանակ չկար հապավելու եւ անհրաժեշտ էր ընթացքում կողմնորոշվել եւ նոր մեթոդներ զարգացնել աշխատանքի։ Աշխատանքի զգալի բարդություններ էր առաջացնում, բայց հրատապություն էր պահանջում գերիների իրավունքների պաշտպանության հարցերը։ Անհրաժեշտ էր աշխարհին ցույց տալ, որ ադրբեջանական իշխանությունները անօրինական առևտրի նպատակով պահում են մարդկանց եւ դրանով զբաղվում են պատերազմական հանցանքներով։ Մենք բացառապես փաստերով հիմնավորել ենք ադրբեջանական հանցավոր արարքները, հաճախ ահաբեկչական բնույթի արարքները եւ ցույց ենք տվել կապը ադրբեջանական իշխանությունների քաղաքականության եւ շարունակվող խախտումների միջեւ։ Ըստ այդմ հիմնավորել ենք, որ անհրաժեշտ է անվտանգության գոտի։ Չի կարող լինել առանց դրա իրավունքների վերականգնում եւ մարդկանց բնականon կյանքի վերականգնում։ Պետք է հատկապես բարձր գնահատել հայկական սփյուռքի դեր։ Ադրբեջանական իշխանությունները մշտապես խոչընդոտել են պատերազմական հանցագործությունները, տարբեր խախտումները ներկայացնելով միջազգային կառույցներում։ Եվ այստեղ է, որ հայկական սփյուռքի կազմակերպությունները մեզ եղել են մշտական աջակից։ Հնարավորություն են ստեղծել, աջակցել են, որպեսզի լինեն միջազգային հարթակներ ու ազդեցիկ միջազգային կառույցներին ներկայացվի իրական վիճակը։ Իմ երախտագիտությունն եմ հայտնում Ամերիկայի հայ դատի հանձնախմբի արևմտյան տարածաշրջանին մեր աշխատանքը գնահատելու եւ Human Rights Champion պատվավոր մրցանակը շնորհելու համար։ Մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի համար ամենակարևոր ձեռքբերումը հանրային վստահությունն է, որ մենք ձեռք ենք բերել այս տարիների ընթացքում եւ զգում ենք մեր ամենօրյա աշխատանքում։ Հայաստանի մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի աշխատանքը միջազգային կառույցները գնահատում են նաեւ այն պատճառով, որ մենք ձևավորում ենք միջազգային նոր փորձ եւ չափանիշներ։ Օրինակ, մարդու իրավունքների եվրոպական դատարանում Հայաստանի մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանը հանդես է գալիս որպես երրորդ կողմ Հայաստանի քաղաքացու իրավունքների պաշտպանության գործով, կամ Հայաստանի մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանը Եվրոպայի խորհրդի նախարարների կոմիտեի է ներկայացնում հատուկ վերլուծություններ Եվրոպական դատարանի վճիռների կատարման վերաբերյալ։ Հայաստանի մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի փորձը համարվում է լավագույններից ամբողջ աշխարհում։ Այն ներդրման համար առաջարկվել է աշխարհի տարբեր երկրների, որովհետև ճանաչվել է առաջատար։ Հայաստան են ժամանել երկրների ներկայացուցիչներ Միջին Արևելքից, Եվրոպայից, Ամերիկայից, աշխարհի այլ մասերից։
Դուք լավ օրինակ եք ծառայում աշխատողներին, բայց վատ օրինակ եք ծառայում ամուսիններին եւ հայրիկներին, պարոն Թաթոյան։ Երեխայի իրավունքով ուզում է տեսնել իր հայրիկին։
Բայց նա հնարավորություն ունի տեսնել իր հայրիկին։ Ահա այսպես հնարավորություն ունի տեսնել։ Խնդրեմ։ Տեսեք եւս մեկ հնարավորություն հայրիկին տեսնելու։
Դրանք էկրանից են համբուրում եւ գրկում հայրիկին։
Dear guests, please welcome ANCA Western Region Vice Chair Rafi Kasabian and ANCA Western Region Board Member Hermine Pakhanians to the stage to introduce our honoree, Dr. Arman Tatoyan.
At 3 a.m. on December 10, 1948, after nearly 3 years of intense deliberation and maneuvering, the United Nations General Assembly voted to adopt what First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt envisioned as a Magna Carta for a new age, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. After 12 years of being America's First Lady, Roosevelt had become the world's foremost champion of human rights, revered for her wisdom, her compassion, and her firmness of purpose. A human rights champion at a time when America lost all sight of hope. A generation who endured the Great Depression and the Second World War. Eleanor Roosevelt was the beacon of hope during America's darkest days. Today, we honor our Eleanor Roosevelt. Today, we honor a man who has the courage at a time when our people, this generation, witnessed the darkest chapters since the first genocide that claimed over 1.5 million Armenian lives. Today, we honor a man who at a time when we thought no more blood can be spilled and no more land can be taken, has risked his life on the ground and amplified our voice in the halls of the international court system to stand up for the people of Armenia against Azerbaijan military aggression. Today, we honor Dr. Arman Tatoyan. Dr. Arman Tatoyan is the embodiment of courage. When others in government turned a blind eye, Dr. Tatoyan demanded accountability from the perpetrator regime. When others acquiesced to defeat to the enemy after the 44-day war, Dr. Tatoyan raised alarms in the international community to invoke justice. And when Azerbaijan attempted to sweep its heinous genocidal conduct under the rug, Dr. Tatoyan pointedly engaged in a fact-finding mission to expose Azerbaijan for what it is, a modern-day genocidal regime. American writer Elie Wiesel wrote, "We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." Dr. Tatoyan's dedication, commitment, and activism for human rights has awoken the slumber and has alerted the international community to take proactive action against Azerbaijan and Turkey's genocidal crimes. Friends, brothers and sisters, The pages of our history book tell us time and time again that we are not a people who survive off hope, but that we are a people who survive by doing. Dr. Tatoyan, you have been the oxygen that has revived our diaspora to stand behind you and the people of Armenia to continue to demand the return of Shushi, to demand the security of Sunik, and to demand that we come out of this a stronger and more unified Armenia and Artsakh. Today, the ANCA Western Region is humbled to bestow the Human Rights Champion Award to our Ombudsman, the Human Rights Defender of Armenia, Dr. Arman Tatoyan. Thank you.
Ամերիկայի հայդատի հանձնախմբի Արևմտյան տարածաշրջանի նախագահ Հարգարժան Տիկին Հովսեփյան, Ամերիկայի հայդատի հանձնախմբի Արևմտյան տարածաշրջանի հարգարժան անդամներ, Բարձրաշնորհ Տեր Պարքև arczepiskopos Սրբազան հայր, հոգևոր հայրեր, ձեր այդ գերազանցություն պարոն դեսպան Արմեն Բաղբության, գլխավոր հյուպատոս Հայաստանի Հանրապետության Լոս Անջելեսում, Հարգարժան Senator Portantino եւ ձեր այդ գերազանցություններ իմ սիրելի հայրենակիցներ. Honorable compatriots, it is a great honor and privilege for me to be here with you today amongst so many dedicated and professional Armenians to address my speech on a number of vital issues related to the rights of all of us and our sacred motherland. It is of utmost importance to address to you in my capacity as the Human Rights Defender, Human Rights Ombudsman of Armenia. It is an independent official leading the only national human rights institution in Armenia. It is independent from the government, non-political, strong and trusted institution with a broad constitutional mandate to protect and promote human rights. It is mandated to not only support individuals affected by the conflict, but also to promote the culture of human rights. This institution addresses full range of human rights, including civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. Armenia's constitution guarantees everyone's right to receive the assistance of the human rights defender in the event of violation of their rights and freedoms. It is an absolute right and cannot be subject to any limitations. Armenia's human rights defender is accredited with the internationally approved highest quality label. This is the A status of the institution as official recognition of its full compliance with the United Nations famous Paris Principles and other international norms. Acting in this capacity as the human rights defender, I came across widespread and gross violations of human rights that any institution of such type would ever deal with. This unprecedented experience of observing and investigating human rights violations and severe war crimes started to massively evolve since September 2020 and continues up to now as a result of Azerbaijani aggression against Armenia and Artsakh. The aggression that hit hard the population of both Armenia and Artsakh resulted in ethnic cleansings. On Sunday, September 27, 2020, all Armenians in the world woke up to news that the Azerbaijani armed forces had launched a large-scale offensive along the entire line of contact with Artsakh. On this specific day, the offensive by the Azerbaijani army was accompanied by artillery, shelling, and airstrikes targeting civilian objects and civilian population. In particular, on this very day, the capital Stepanakert, Martuni and Martakert, and other communities came under fire. As a result of shelling, civilians of Martuni city were killed and many civilians of the same city were injured. The population of peaceful communities was forced to take shelters in bunkers. The 44-day disastrous war started. Azerbaijan, with Turkey's full military support and accompanied by state-sponsored hatred and enmity, massive torture and inhuman treatment, destructed the civilian communities through targeted shelling, use of prohibited cluster warhead missiles, participation of trafficked jihadist mercenaries and terrorists. From the first moments of the bloody war, the Human Rights Defender of Armenia, in close cooperation with the Human Rights Ombudsman of Artsakh, started 24 hours monitoring and large-scale investigations, on-site visits to civilian communities, work with worldwide international organizations. During the active phase of hostilities and aftermath, civilians were killed and injured due to the indiscriminate and deliberate attacks of the Azerbaijani forces towards the civilian communities and civilian vital infrastructures both in Artsakh and Armenia. Thousands of people lost their properties, houses, vehicles, plots of land, livestock. They were either damaged or destroyed by attacks or fell under the control of Azerbaijani authorities. Tens of thousands of individuals were forced to leave their communities due to threat to their lives as a result of Azerbaijani offensive. Very often, families were spread to be able to find a place to live. This war was accompanied by massive amount of torture and inhuman treatment of Armenian servicemen and civilians captured by Azerbaijani armed forces. With the war expanding, the number of cases and the level of cruelty demonstrated by Azerbaijani military had dramatically expanded, which is also evident from the volume of visual and audio files disseminated online. Atrocities and cruelties committed by the Azerbaijani armed servicemen were widely disseminated through the Azerbaijani social media. These videos of extreme violence were specifically targeting Armenian social media, including children, women, and elderly, by this massively spreading scenes of violence and causing sufferings to the Armenian society, playing with emotions of families and the population in general. In many cases, videos or photos were sent to families of victims. Fact-finding activities of Armenia's Human Rights Defender have revealed over 350 videos and photo materials of torture and humiliations, executions, beheadings alive, mutilation of bodies of Armenian military servicemen and civilians by the Azerbaijani armed forces. The border civilian population in Armenia and Artsakh has been hit hard by human rights violations after the war too. In case of Armenia, in the absence of delimitation and demarcation, the border determination process with Azerbaijan is being carried out through massive human rights violations in the context of Azerbaijani genocidal policy and under threats of war against Armenia and Artsakh and its entire population. Immediately after the cessation of hostilities from November 2020, armed Azerbaijani servicemen, Azerbaijani signs and flags appeared in the direct vicinity of Armenia's Syunik and Gegarkunik province villages, as well as on the roads between civilian communities of Syunik. The Human Rights Defender of Armenia launched immediate fact-finding missions to the border communities mentioned above. Urgent monitoring and investigation proceedings have been launched. The visits and launched investigations clearly established that the Azerbaijani armed servicemen forced civilians to leave their lands and houses that have belonged to them in many cases since even before the Soviet times. In November and December 2020, they threatened to destroy villages and houses through UAV attacks if civilians did not leave their communities. For instance, Vorotan village, Arabus village, and more. Along with protection of peaceful life and security of people, the right to freedom of movement has been violated because of Azerbaijani armed servicemen's block posts on the roads between communities of Syunik. Various sections of the interstate road from Goris to Kapan and from Kapan city to Chakaten village and several other villages have come under Azerbaijani control. which has put the movement of civilians in real danger and has already created problems affecting the rights of the border population, including by creating humanitarian crisis situations for the local population of surrounding villages. On 25 August 2021, more than 50 Azerbaijani servicemen blocked the interstate road leading from Goris to Kapan near Davidbek village. On 26 of August, Azerbaijani armed servicemen blocked the road from Goris to Kapan near Vorodan village. By blocking the mentioned sections of the road, Azerbaijani armed servicemen intentionally created a humanitarian crisis for several Armenian villages. These villages had been left in a blockade for several days. Since November 11 and November 15, Azerbaijani so-called border control and customs checkpoints were installed on the roads between communities of Syunik province, on the roads Goris-Kapan and Kapan-Chakaten. Enormous social problems occurred in addition to security issues. Socio-economic rights in Syunik and Ghazarian provinces have been grossly violated. People are deprived of their properties, even with legal documentation certifying their rights over these properties, with no compensation. Significant number of persons still continues to pay credits for the lost properties. Losses and damages caused to local population have not been counted. No inventory was carried out. Azerbaijani incursions of May 2021 into the sovereign territory of Armenia, Syunik and Ghazarian, intensified human rights violations and took massive and gross forms, shootings towards civilian communities, setting massive fires near villages and more. The human rights defender monitoring revealed a new case of incursion which took place in October 2020. This is in the region of Kapan community. In addition to all the above mentioned violations, the Azerbaijani authorities continue causing suffering to the Armenian population by illegally keeping our compatriots as captives, civilians and military servicemen, in absolute violation of the international humanitarian law, instead of immediate release and their repatriation. Azerbaijanis keep them under torture and direct threat to their lives. They have launched so-called investigations and artificial trials against Armenian captives, using them for political and military bargaining purposes. Together with all this, the evidence confirms that the Azerbaijani policy of organized hate speech and animosity have become root causes of gross and massive human rights violations and ethnically motivated crimes, not only in the region, but also globally. And here I have to say that just 2 days ago, with members of ANCA Western Region and Honorable Lawyer Mr. Garo Ghazarian, I had the chance to visit San Francisco, and we visited the Armenian church that was set on fire and the Armenian school that was vandalized during the war. This is a vivid example how the Azerbaijani policy of organized hatred and animosity can affect other countries and the stability of other countries. And I think this is a very important factor that we have to bring to the attention of governments of other countries for the sake of the safety of our nation who live in these countries. Armenians have experienced ethnic hatred and countless persecutions. They have been subjected to genocidal massacres and pogroms. This experience continues to this day. The President of Azerbaijan actively leads this practice. He routinely uses derogatory terms to collectively describe Armenians, referring to them as bandits, vandals, fascists, barbarians, cowardly nature, people without brain. He also consistently denies the occurrence of the Armenian genocide and called the statement recognizing the genocide by the United States of America in April 2021 as unacceptable and a historic mistake. Recently, he started to attack the Armenian diaspora, claiming that Armenians are poisoned with poison. And I quote here, "The poison mainly comes from their diaspora, which sits in a very quiet and nice places in southern France, in California, in Krasnodar Krai, in some other capitals, and enjoy their life. And they want those Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh and in Armenia to be their hostages and be their tools for them to pursue some ambitious and chauvinistic ideas." This rhetoric is the manifestation of an ingrained hatred of Armenians that finds expression also in the media and the education system. Consistent with this policy of ethnic cleansing and rhetoric of hate, as noted above, Azerbaijan has historically committed countless violations of international law, the majority of which were plainly racially motivated. Azerbaijan's propagation of hate against Armenians has manifested itself in the condoning, rewarding, and cynically glorifying crimes against Armenians. In keeping with its long-standing policy of ethnic cleansing, Azerbaijan has also systematically sought to destroy, erase, and falsify Armenian cultural heritage in the region. This policy is being aggressively carried out nowadays in Artsakh. As a result of military aggression against Artsakh, at least 1,456 overwhelmingly Armenian historical and cultural prominent immovable monuments, including 161 monasteries and churches, 591 khachkars, the ancient sites of Tigranakert, Azokh, Nor Karmiravan, Mirik, Keren, fortresses and castles, and other monuments remained under the control of Azerbaijan. The deplorable history of persecution of Armenians in the region dates back centuries. The contemporary policies of discrimination against ethnic Armenians, which are an inalienable part of the life within the Republic of Azerbaijan, are rooted in developments in the early 20th century and are linked directly with the genocidal policies of the Ottoman Empire. Our compatriots living in Armenia and Artsakh experienced the same threats and difficulties as our grandparents and parents went through in the Ottoman Empire. The ongoing state-sponsored Azerbaijani policy of Armenophobia and hatred is the only source for the above-mentioned disastrous consequences. We have to learn lessons, recognize threats, and act accordingly. How we can overcome all these difficulties and challenges, and whether it is possible, and whether we can do it. Yes, we can. We have to act in unity and solidarity more than ever. Our strategy should be our joint efforts to ensure the long-standing peace and security of our motherland and our nation. We ourselves are the guarantors of our rights and secure future. Here I would like to thank the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region, the whole team, for their tremendous work and tireless efforts in protection of rights of Armenian people in the diaspora, Armenia, and Artsakh. Thank you all for being with us all along the way. We have many seeds to plant along the path. We won't reach our destination in one day, but I know we can get there. We shall never give up, never retreat. We have no choice but to accomplish our historical mission, to use our wisdom and to progress and prosper. Thank you very much. And I have a very symbolic gift in appreciation and my deep gratitude to the ANCA Western Region for your tireless efforts and for awarding the Human Rights Champion to the Human Rights Defender of Armenia. And if you allow, I would like to invite Ms. Nora Hovsepian, the exceptional chairperson of the ANCA, to hand over. The Human Rights Defender of Armenia, proudly acknowledges the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region for the exceptional commitment to the protection of the rights of the Armenian people and the preservation of identity. And this is the pomegranate to the ANCA committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's take it. I think ask them again for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have two exceptional friends who are present here, who have been always with me from the very first day of the war, even before that, but from the very first day of the war, 24 hours being with us. And when I came, by the way, I was thinking that I realized and I appreciate their assistance. But when I came to the US after the war, I just realized that I'm realizing their tireless efforts and the price of their tireless efforts, because here I have also to follow the Armenian realities during the night and during the day, to work here, to participate in the meetings. Here I want to acknowledge Honorable Mr. Garo Ghazarian and Honorable Karnig Kerkonian. Yes. Այս շապազանց համեստ մարդիկ who changed so many things in the world. I can bring just two examples. One example, Mr. Karnig Kerkonian launched proceedings participating in the trial before the ICJ, International Court of Justice, and since he also launched some proceedings related to UAVs and drones with Canada. We were in touch with Mr. Kerkonian, and we launched immediate fact-finding mission to Garo Ghazarian because we needed evidence of drone attacks and a report that I was supposed to send to Mr. Kerkonian. By the way, this was the exact day when we had to cancel first day of our fact-finding mission because of the attacks of the drones. But I appreciate so much Mr. Karnig Kerkonian's assistance, because due to this trial and due to this assistance, many things were banned, especially related to the drones. Mr. Garo Ghazarian was always with us, with me and the human rights defender of Artsakh, by the way, as well. But our whole institution knows as Mr. Garo Ghazarian and both Mr. Garo Ghazarian and Mr. Kerkonian. And there are plenty of examples. One of them, which is very popular among our in our staff, among my colleagues, is the lessons of Mr. Ghazarian, how to advocate for human rights. When they were in Armenia, you could see the photos, and we always are guided by these principles. So thank you very much, and if I may invite you because I have some surprise symbolic gifts. The Human Rights Defender of Armenia proudly acknowledges Honorable Karnig Kerkonian, distinguished Armenian lawyer in the United States of America, for the years of consistent efforts and exceptional dedication in protection of the rights of Armenians in the diaspora and world organizations. The Human Rights Defender of the Republic of Armenia proudly acknowledges Honorable Garo Ghazarian, distinguished Armenian lawyer in the United States of America, for the years of consistent efforts and exceptional dedication in the protection of the rights of Armenians in the diaspora and world organizations.
First of all, thank you, Arman for this unique honor, I have to say. And I just want to say a couple of words of thank you, obviously, to Arman as well as the ANC. Our nation clearly is in a valley, a very deep valley. But we know that every valley is flanked by mountains. And the only way to rise up those mountains is the same way it has always been. It is through the efforts of Haytad, which at its core is really the epitome of working towards human rights, of working towards Armenian dignity. And that is what we are doing here together. That is what the ANCA Western region has done repeatedly and for so many decades. And I think that the recognition of Arman today here is such a telling exercise of appreciation for a joint mission, a mission that spans the diaspora and the Republic and every single Armenian household. So I thank Arman for all of your efforts with extreme professionalism, with undying conviction. You have made such a difference in the hearts of every single Armenian, not only in the Republic of Armenia, but every single Armenian household across the globe. And we appreciate that immensely. And there is a way up that mountain, and it is following the pursuit of Haytad, Armenian dignity, and the Armenian nation's aspirations for security and survival. Thank you.
Rafik Asabian mentioned the Roosevelt name, and I was reminded of Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust, sweat and tears, blood as well. The credit belongs to Dr. Arman Tatoyan, who has been in the arena. The credit belongs to the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region, who has been in the arena. The credit belongs to each and every one of you for not only being here today, but being in the arena from San Francisco, from Silicon Valley, and every other chapter of the ANCA Western Region. The credit belongs to the board and each and every member of the board of the ANCA Western Region during these trying times. We are just volunteers in the path. The path is singular. It's the cause, and the cause is sacred. Let us unite behind that cause. Haytad, thank you very much.
I would like to welcome our California State Senator Anthony Portantino to deliver a scroll on behalf of the state. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It is truly an honor to be here today. As you know, I just got back from Armenia this week, and you'll hear more about my trip. But, I was touched by Dr. Tatoyan's comment about how Turkey's attacking the diaspora. You know what it means when they attack you? It means they're afraid of you, right? It means you're effective. And so I'm just honored to be here, honored clergy and Nora and the ANC. Thank you for inviting me to recognize and add a state commendation to Dr. Tatoyan's amazing career. Think about human rights. Think about what Gandhi said about human rights. It's something that we all have the moment we're born, being human. It's something we all share in common. And so that's why it's a great honor to be here to add a California State Senate proclamation to the human rights defender of the Republic of Armenia, Dr. Arman Tatoyan. Congratulations and thank you for all you do. You make us all a better person, a better country, a better people, and we're better for your efforts. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Senator. And before we break for dessert, we'd also like to present a scroll on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Hermina. On behalf of Catherine Barger and the entire Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles County, thank you, Dr. Tatoyan.
Եթե թույլ կտակ ես հայերենով ուզում եի երկու բառ ասել։ Ելույթս ամբողջը my speech was in English, but if you allow me. Ես ուզում եի անդրադառնալ, որ հարգաժան սենատոր Պորտանտինոն ասեց արդեն։ Հայկական սփյուռքը, հզոր սփյուռքը, որի համար մենք հպարտ ենք բոլորով, ես ինքս սիրտս մեծ հպարտությամբ է լցվում, երբ հայկական սփյուռքի մասին խոսում ենք եւ այս բացառիկ առաքելության համար ուզում եմ իմ խորին երախտագիտությունը հայտնել Հայդատի հանձնախմբին, Արևմտյան Ամերիկայի արևմտյան տարածաշրջանին մասնավորապես, բայց իսկապես հայկական սփյուռքից այս հարձակումների մի բան են ցույց տալիս, որ հայկական սփյուռքից վախենում են մեր այն մարդիկ, ովքեր ուզում են բնաջնջել հայ ժողովրդին։ Դա նշանակում է, որ որքան հզոր է հայկական սփյուռքը։ Ամենակարևորը միասնական լինելն է հիմա։ Հայաստանը առավ եւ Արցախը առավել քան ունի կարիքը հայկական սփյուռքի։ Եվ Հայաստանն ու Արցախը վստահ եմ գիտեք միայն Երևանը չեն։ Իրական Հայաստանն ու Արցախը դրանք մարզերն են, դրանք իրական Արցախն է այս պահին ցավոք խնդիրների մեջ եւ հնարավորություն է տալիս նաեւ հայկական սփյուռքի եւ Արցախի ու Հայաստանի հետ կապերը ել ավելի ամրապնդել մեր երկիրը հզորացնել ու շենացնել։ Որովհետև, ինչպես ես անգլերեն ասացի իմ ելույթում, մեր դարերի պատմությունը մեզ տվել է առաքելություն։ Եվ այդ առաքելությունը մեր ժողովրդի ողջ հավաքական իմաստնությամբ մենք պետք է տանենք առաջ։ Բոլորս միասին, միայն առաջ եւ միայն դեպի առաջընթաց։ Շնորհակալություն։ Thank you.
Dear guests, dessert will now be served, followed by the delivery of the benediction by His Eminence Archbishop Barkev Martirosyan of Artsakh, representing the Western Diocese of the Armenian Church of North America.
I'd like to invite Barkev Sirpazan to the podium to give the benediction. Thank you all for coming, and I'll turn it over Barkev Sirpazan.
Ես կարծում եմ այսօր շատ գեղեցիկ ժամանակ անցկացրեցինք, վայելեցինք, մեր մարդկանց ովքեր խոսեցին եւ ճաշը վայելեցինք եւ ժամն է եկել որ փագենք, մեկս մյուսին շնորհակալություն հայտնենք այս ամենի համար եւ ասում փառք տանք։ Օրհնյալ Տեր մեր Հիսուս Քրիստոս ամեն փառք կերակրողին տեզերած, որս մեզ կերակրած, եւ լացուց եւ նմա փառք հավիտյանս ամեն, օրհնյալ եղերուկ, ի շնորհացու փոքրուն, երթայք, ի խաղաղություն եւ ի հաջողություն, եւ Տեր Հիսուս Քրիստոս եղեցին ձեզ ընմեզ, ընդամենեսյանսս ամեն։ Բոլորիս հաջողություն մեր բոլոր ազգային ոլորտներում, շնորհակալություն բոլորիդ, ամեն։